What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin ATL Hawks podcast. This is episode 6, where we talk all things Atlanta Hawks basketball. Of course, like always, I am joined by my fellow colleagues, John Joyner and my brother, Chase Jefferson. And look, guys, last episode, we kind of left off on a sour note, because let's just say the Hawks weren't really soaring, so to speak, and we ended off the episode kind of talking about the really tough stretch of basketball games that the Atlanta Hawks were just about to endure, and how if the Hawks that we talked about in the last episode played throughout the week in this tough, grinding schedule, then the Hawks were sure to fall and get shot down right out of the sky. But of course, as we introduce this new episode, we are at the Sunday mark yet again. But we have a bit of a upspring to us, We're all got some smirks on our face because the Atlanta Hawks have been playing some of the best brand of basketball we have seen since that 2021 season, I would say. Since ending off that episode, the Hawks went into Monday night with their first ever City Edition game against Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Well, that game did not go as planned. We lost by 10, 121-119. Had the lead for a minute there in the second half and just slowly kind of dropped and couldn't really gain our ground again. But ever since that, we won. And since it's Christmas time, I'm going to bring some Christmas element into this. We won not just one, but we won 2, not just 2. We won 3 for Zeus. Shout out to you, Kyle Korver, even though LeBron James just passed you in the all-time three-pointer list. Tough. Not 4, not 5, but 6 in a row, ladies and gentlemen. And as we're recording this episode right now, the Atlanta Hawks just ended that streak. We lost by 30 to the Denver Nuggets, who just lost to the Washington Wizards. So that kind of baffles me. But John did inform us in a text message earlier today that we were without some key players. But guys, I've rambled on enough. How are you guys doing? And one of you guys kick us off with what has changed in Atlanta with this basketball team?
First of all, I'm doing great. It's finals week. I just got 2 finals. Then I'm going home for break on Wednesday night. So I might miss part of the Mavs game, but I'm gonna try and keep track of it. But no, I think we're. I was very happy with our win streak that we had. We played great. And that's all I can ask for, because now now we have shown that we are a good NBA team when we play like it, and that we can compete in the playoffs. Well, first we got to compete in the cup, but yeah, come April we can compete in the playoffs.
That's right. We going to Vegas, baby. Chase, how are we going to Vegas, man?
Well, actually, we're not going to Vegas quite
Well, not yet. No, but we have the ticket. We have the ticket.
We do.
We can get the ticket.
The gold ticket's in reach. All we have to do is just reach out and grab it. But before we get into all that, I am too doing great. Like Joyner said, it's finals week. We're wrapping up school. We get a nice little break before we hop in the next semester. So we get to really kick back, enjoy some Hawks basketball, but it's kind of funny because I remember recording the last episode just kind of feeling down. This sucks because we've seen once again the Hawks have all this talent, yet not producing it because of lack of chemistry, just miscommunication, not enough off-ball movement. We're causing turnovers. We've gone on a lynch streak. We're dropping the Eastern Conference. Everything seemed to be falling apart in this organization this year until all of a sudden – it's funny because, we said all season long, the one thing the Hawks do well is we beat the teams that are good and lose to the teams that are bad. And because, we lost because, again, before the Wizards beat the Nuggets last night, we were the 2 wins, the 2 only wins that the Wizards had. Now, of course, they have 3 because they beat the Nuggets. But, then like you said, we play Cleveland back-to-back. One of them on the road for a regular game and the other one at home for NBA Cup game, which the home game, we absolutely destroyed them.
Oh, we beat
beat the Hornets in a close game. Then we turn around and beat the Pelicans at home, the return of DeJounte Murray, which was kind of funny that he got booed. I wasn't expecting the Hawks fans to boo him, but they did. And then we beat a red-hot Milwaukee Bucks team on the road, beat the Lakers in overtime in what, in my opinion, is arguably Trae Young's best game he's ever had as Atlanta Hawk. And it was an absolute
we'll
banger.
take a deep dive into that game, believe us.
We will. But before we start taking some deep dives, I will say I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and I passed an Atlanta Hawks fan page. I can't shout them out because I can't remember who exactly said this, but they described how the Hawks are playing perfectly. If you recall back to our 21 season when we made that great Eastern Conference Finals run, what we saw was the team was having fun. They were having a great time. The chemistry was there. They all matched well together. It was running smoothly. We had a really good bench. There was no stress, no anger, no disappointment. Every player complimented each other so well.
Right.
And then the last couple seasons, we haven't seen that same chemistry. And then at the start of this season, it didn't seem like we had that chemistry even now until all of a sudden, I want to recall last year real quick, and I remember this so vividly, and I just felt bad. I remember seeing Trae Young, when he was on the bench, he'd sit there with his shoulder slump. He just seemed so sad and so disappointed because remember from last year, that's when he was paired up with DeJounte Murray. Everybody expected the Hawks to be a sneaky team in the Eastern Conference Finals, but as we all know, that deal never panned out well together. It was kind of that feeling like, the Hawks are better than this. They should be better than what they are. And, so it was just a disappointment all across the Atlanta Hawks team. And then you see now this year, it seems like the Hawks are starting to have fun again. Trae Young's happy on the sidelines. He's laughing, joking around. At the end of every game, everybody gives a big call in the microphone, And once again, just like 21, each player complements each other so well. We are seeing the growing chemistry between Trae Young and Jalen Johnson. We have the rookie, Zachary Richardson, starting, who is playing better and better. And then we have a fantastic DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench right behind him. We have Dyson Daniels, who is on pace to win Defense Player of the Year. And then we have Bogey on the bench right behind him, who's been a lethal three-point shooter. And just everything is starting to finally mesh so well together. But, we've introduced the win streak. We're going to talk about it later in the episode, how the Hawks won their group. But before we do that, let's just dive into this winning streak a little deeper. Andrew, I'm going to go turn it to you. The Hawks had back-to-back games against Cleveland. One on the road, like I said, for a normal regular season game. And then we turned around that Friday and played them in an early home game for the NBA Cup, and that was a big one for the Hawks. That one determined if we were even in the quarterfinals or not. But I want you to break down those two matchups against Cleveland and how those two big wins really started this massive 6-game win streak for the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, that sentence that you just said, Chase, back-to-back against Cleveland, unlike Enes Kanter, that sentence makes my nipples soft. And it should for the rest of the league. Because going into that game in Cleveland, one of the toughest places to play in the NBA, one of the biggest capacities in the NBA, they were 17-1. They have not lost a single home game all season. Their only loss was coming on the road against the defending champs, the Boston Celtics. And the way the Hawks were playing, there was no way that I was going to that game with the faith that we were going to go out there victorious. But this is when we saw momentum swing. Now, Trae Young, this is very significant to that key win. Trae Young had a career-high 22 assists, which is the most in the NBA this season, obviously, and he scored 20 points as the Atlanta Hawks handed Cleveland its second loss of the season, 135-134, and that was on Thursday night. 2 weeks ago. Now, the Cavs fell to 17-2, and for like I mentioned before, their first time losing at home this season in 11 home games. Now, another key factor, DeAndre Hunter. We have spoke about how big of an impact DeAndre Hunter has been coming off the bench. And there is a legitimate possibility that DeAndre Hunter, though he's been battling injuries all throughout his career, could come out this season winning that Sixth Man of the Year award. And why would he not? Let's go back to that Cleveland game I was just talking about. He had 26 points. And then alongside him, Jalen Johnson, who is continuing to prove why he is the rising star in Atlanta, scored 22 for the Hawks. And he made all the big plays down the stretch, really, as the Hawks stunned the Cavs. And then let's talk about rookie Zachary Richardson, who you just talked about, Chase. Scored 13 of his 17 points in the first 3 minutes of the second half for Atlanta. Coming out of halftime, the Hawks were down by 3. Actually, we were down by almost 20 in that first quarter and then had a tremendous 16-2 run to end that quarter to tie things up at 35. Then we were down by 3 at halftime, and Zachary Richardson came out of that halftime locker room on a buzz. That man was not missing anything from beyond the arc. He had post moves like prime Tim Duncan to draw fouls, get and-ones. It was unbelievable. But let's not shy away to the big monsters in Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell scored 30. And Donovan Mitchell is one of those players in the league. It's not how can we stop him. It's just how can we contain him enough to not make him as big as an impact as he could. But he scored 30 points. Very solid night. And then Evan Mobley added 22 points and 13 rebounds for Cleveland. That was one of the worst rebounding games for the Atlanta Hawks, I will say. When you have when you have a forward like Evan Mobley who can get around box outs from Clint Capella and Okongwu, then you've got a problem. But here are my big takeaways from the Hawks this game. Trae Young, let's be honest, he didn't have his best shooting night. He went just 6 of 18. But this is where Trae Young's game becomes lethal. Though he wasn't shooting the best, he did have the lead, or he as the good Lord. Let me gather myself. Though he didn't have the best shooting night, the league's assist leader got every single teammate involved. That's how DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench got almost 30. That's how Jalen Johnson got a solid 20. That's how Zachary Richardson was able to become more involved down the stretch. And Atlanta ended that 3-game losing streak and recorded its second big road win of the season. Because remember, just a few nights ago, we beat Boston on the road for that group stage opener without Trae Young and without DeAndre Hunter. Now, for the Cavaliers, it was really the first time all season, aside from that Celtics, I'd even say including that Celtics game, that they showed true vulnerability after being so dominant all season long. Because they built a 19-point lead, and they had that false sense of security that just was completely swept under their feet. And I really think the key moment of that game was when the Hawks were up by 4 and, as Young does so well, turned the ball over. But then, of course, Dyson Daniels, as he does so well, got the ball back with his own turnover on Atlanta's previous possession and almost lost it again before recovering. And after Trae recovered that loose ball, drained a 39-footer to make it 129-122 with just a minute left. And then let's not throw any shade on Dyson Daniels, because he came into that game leading the NBA in steals with over 3 steals per game, which is ridiculous. And he continued to prove why that stat is true, because he had those clutch steals down the stretch that the Hawks really needed to build that security blanket in the final 5 minutes of that game and pull away from this testy Cavs team. And then, of course, up next, the Hawks had to meet again on Black Friday, this time in Atlanta, this time for a very pivotal NBA Cup game. But John, I'm going to throw it to you. You kind of shed some light on this game when the Hawks went back to Atlanta, and how did the Hawks manage to win 2 straight against the best team in the league? And by the way, every time we talk about a game that built on this win streak, I'm going to eat one of these Christmas Kit Kats. So, cheers. Here's to the first game of the win streak.
Cheers.
Yeah, I don't have anything to tell you, man.
Yeah, Sam, I don't have anything to eat either. So again, Trae Young dropped another double-double. He had 21 points, 11 assists. I mean, didn't get that many assists, but like it's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Jalen Johnson's performed a little bit better. He had 20 points. Richie Shea had 11. But again, like we've been saying, DeAndre Hunter off the bench, 20 plus points, 23 points.
Oh yeah.
4 for 7 from 3, 5 rebounds, and then Okongwu additionally had 15 points and 7 rebounds, and then Bogey off the bench had 10 points. Didn't really shoot the best, but I mean, still won. So I mean, but and like we got like almost everyone like got involved. Like the only person that didn't play this game was Nance Jr., which I mean it was Quinn's decision not to play him. So I mean we don't know what happened there, but and then the only person that disappointed was Kobe Buffkin, who just did cardio in 13 minutes. For 3 from stove for 3 from the field. So
hey, good for his health.
Yeah, and then like we were saying like earlier, like we can't like completely stop Donovan Mitchell, but we can hope to contain him. That's exactly what we did. We held him to 5 for 23 shooting from the field, 2 for 10 from 3. With only 12 points, and somehow his 6'1" self got like 11 rebounds. I don't know how he did that, but but I mean that's exactly what we did. We held Mitchell to 12 points, which is exactly what we need to do. Is just not completely like stop him because you can't. But just trying to make him more human. So
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
I'm really glad you brought the fact of how poor Donovan Mitchell played because he's such a big impact and the reason the game in Cleveland was so back and forth and so close for the final minutes. But this was a game that the Hawks had control the whole way through, and a big reason for that is how we were able to lock up Donovan Mitchell and keep him from being so effective, which shows that Donovan Mitchell, everyone knows he's a centerpiece of this Cavs team. If you take Donovan Mitchell out of the equation, he can't be Spider-Man and save the team. Cleveland does have vulnerability if you shut down Donovan Mitchell, which is a problem that could arise for that Cavs team later down the road. We'll see how that all pans out. But for those who didn't know, heading into this game at home against Cleveland, like y'all said, Black Friday, the way the group standings held, the only way for the Hawks to win the group was, of course, they had to beat Cleveland on Black Friday. And then later that night, the Celtics were hosting the Chicago Bulls. And the Celtics, all they had to do was beat the Bulls at home. The Bulls have been a very mediocre team. Celtics have been great this year, so there's a good chance that was going to happen. So mainly the Hawks' big focus was just get a win against the Cavaliers. Of course, that's exactly what they did in dominating in impressive fashion. And then, of course, the Celtics went on to take care of business against the Bulls, and it was actually a very close game for a big portion of the game. So it gave the Hawks a little bit of a scare. Even if the Bulls did beat the Celtics, there was a really good chance the Hawks would make the wild card. But because the Celtics won, we actually won the group, and we go to the quarterfinals against the New York Knicks. And guys, if y'all would have told me just a week ago that, or even before the season even started, when they released the group, who was going to be in each group, if you would have told me that the Hawks in a group with the Cavaliers and the Celtics would come out on top, I would have thought you were absolutely crazy. But the Hawks are playing, like Andrew said, I agree, the best basketball I have seen since the 21 season when we made that playoff run. So this is a really good sign for the Atlanta Hawks fans, and a big reason Hawks fans should be excited. And it's a big win for Landry Fields. I remember I was listening to 92.9 The Game before the season started, and they were talking about the Hawks GM, Landry Fields. And this is before we made the DeJounte Murray trade. And the guys on 92.9 were saying, they're like, this is a big offseason for Landry Fields. Like what he does with DeJounte Murray here will decide his future as the Hawks GM because the pressure's on him. He's the one who made this move to bring Murray in, which was a controversial idea to begin with. It turned out to flop, and it was a bad look on Landry Fields. So they're saying because he messed up with the decision to even bring Murray to Atlanta, what he does with him now, whether he trades Murray or whether he trades Trae Young, this decision will decide his future as a Hawks GM. Well, we all know he decided to get rid of him to the Pelicans, where we got Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., and a draft pick. And though everybody was glad, or most people are glad anyway, that we stuck with Trae Young, people didn't like the trade too much because Dyson Daniels, he was getting like 8-9 minutes in New Orleans. Larry Nance Jr. wasn't a big piece from the Pelicans off the bench. So people felt like we got that we traded DeJounte Murray for practically nothing. Well, as we know, Dyson Daniels has turned out to just blossom like a beautiful little rose into one of the greatest defensive player currently in the NBA. And then though Larry Nance Jr. hasn't played a whole lot for the Hawks this year, the times he has came off the bench, he's had some really good outings. And of course, we don't know what we're going to do with that draft pick. But the point is, Landry Fields, I feel like finally has his team. This is a young Hawks team led by a veteran Trae Young that has a deep, young, and talented bench that is finally to gain that chemistry, and nothing could be more beautiful for Mr. Landry Fields. So I imagine he's popping a bottle of champagne in his office. Glad he decided to give it to Murray instead of Trae Young.
And speaking of popping bottles of champagne, I'm gonna pop this Kit Kat. I called it a Kit Kat. This is a Hershey's Kiss. I don't know what I'm talking about. I sound like I'm under the influence of champagne. But here we go for that second win. Now, we could actually. This is a really bad idea. Now I have to chew this real quick. Y'all talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Joyner, I guess I'll go ahead and ask you the question, Joyner. Since we're talking about the Hawks winning their group cup play, this Wednesday we had the quarterfinals matchup against the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden because they were the higher seed than the Hawks. Technically, so they host this quarterfinal game against Atlanta. We all know when the Knicks came to Atlanta, Zachary Richardson had his best game so far in his young NBA career. The Hawks beat the Knicks at home. Trae Young told the Knicks bandwagons to get their ASS out of the stadium, and now
they did.
Trae Young's going to his second home, Madison Square Garden. Trae Young loves to dominate in front of the New York crowd. We all remember 2021 when he took a bow when the Hawks defeat the Knicks in 5. Joyner, what are the Hawks' keys to success to come into Madison Square Garden on Wednesday night to officially punch their ticket to Vegas?
Again, like we've been saying, we got to neutralize their best players. Like Jalen Brunson, there's no secret he's a top 5 point guard in the league right now. That's no secret. We just gotta we can't shut him down completely. Because he's that guy. It pains me to say it as a Hawks fan, but it's true. I can't deny it.
It is true. He's a great boy. Great boy.
Yeah, we just gotta neutralize him. Hold him to below 20, just like we do with Mitchell. You just gotta stop him and then hold the other guys. Just looking at the injury report, it's saying that Karl Anthony Towns is a game time decision for that game.
That's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's going to be huge as well. But also, it is saying, there are saying that we could be without Bogey and Johnson as well. But we'll see.
I hope not.
Like we've been saying, we just gotta hold these star players just below their potential because we can't stop these star players. We can only hope to slow them down. That's what we gotta do, just slow Brunson down.
And I will say, I find this very disrespectful. I want to bring this up real quick. the current spread right now, especially with the current state of the Atlanta Hawks, the Knicks are favored by 8.5. That is the spread right now. Now, I know Madison Square Garden is a tough place to play, but we just saw the Hawks beat the best current team in the NBA back-to-back, one on the road, one at home. And then we went on the road against Milwaukee, a team that was on a 6-game winning streak themselves, and we beat them in very comfortable fashion. So I just really feel like 8.5 favorite. I know this is a high-state game. This is going to be a very loud and hostile environment that the Hawks are going to be playing in, especially with Trae Young coming to town. But I just feel like 8.5 is a very disrespectful line.
I mean, in the NBA, the home team is always going to get the swing. But look, I look at it this way. Yeah, it's disrespectful, but that's what you're going to get when you have a hometown Knicks team who has Jalen Brunson, a great playmaker, paired up with a big guy like Karl-Anthony Towns. We know how versatile he is from beyond the arc and how dominant he is on the boards and just in the paint in general. So on paper, people are going to swing, favor the Knicks. But the way I look at it, we haven't been favored in more than half of the games we won during this win streak, yet we've come up on top. So honestly, keep doubting us. That's kind of the way that I look at it, because if we're going to play villain in this entire league and get these spoil out wins, then let's continue to do so, because it seems like when we're not our backs are against the wall, that's just when these young guys in Atlanta ball out the best. So let's go on Madison Square Garden as the underdogs. Let's break some hearts again. Let's put on a good Broadway show for them. But I actually want to talk about something you brought up, Chase, earlier. I want to shed some light on DeJounte Murray's return to Atlanta. Because, before that, we had that game against the Hornets. I mean, it was a close 3-point win. The Hawks, if you guys don't know, if you're just new to the Atlanta Hawks basketball organization, no matter how good or bad the Hornets are, that is always a team we're going to struggle against when we go in Charlotte. And that's what happened. I mean, Young, he struggled early with 4 first quarter turnovers. I mean, it was one of his worst ball security games I've ever seen. And he didn't score his first points until 3 minutes left of the entire first half. And this was a Charlotte team that had no LaMelo Ball. And they had their centers, Mark Williams and Nick Richards, has been out for the last 14 games. But Richards returned to that game, but Mark Williams was still out. And the key moment of the game, game was tight late in the game. DeAndre Hunter scored on a driving layup to give the Hawks the lead. And after he made the layup, he stayed on the ground where the baseline was, and he appeared to be injured, which I got scared for a minute. But Charlotte, of course, the game goes on. So they had a 5-on-4 situation at the other end of the court, but turned the ball over with Trae Young making one of the best steals I've seen all season. And then he immediately threw it down the court to DeAndre Hunter, who was all of a sudden okay again, just staying there, waiting for the ball to come to him. And he dunked the ball at 19 seconds left. That kind of secured the win. I do want to point out before I talk about the Pelicans game, Brandon Miller for the Charlotte Hornets, 32 points. What a freaking ball game. That dude was automatic in that fourth quarter.
Brandon Miller is going to be a baller, dude.
Yeah,
he had me sweating for a minute. Now, before I eat my other Hershey's Kiss, I'm going to save it so I don't get my mouth full. But that's the third win right there. Now the Hawks came back home for a very anticipated. Now, it was a very underwhelming Pelicans team. Mind you, they were 4-17 heading into that game. So it wasn't an anticipated matchup because of the matchup itself. It was anticipated because earlier in the year, when the Hawks got a 15-point win in New Orleans, DeJounte Murray was out due to a fracture. So this was the first time that the Hawks were actually battling their former guard, DeJounte Murray. Now, of course, before the game, you had your pregame, reunions. You had Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter having a moment during warmups. You had DeJounte Murray having that sentimental moment with DeAndre Hunter when he was shooting free throws and DeJounte Murray kept messing with him. It was all jokes and giggles. Now, you said earlier, Chase, that you were surprised that DeJounte Murray got booed by the Atlanta Hawks fans. I don't think it's a disrespect thing. I think you're going to see it all around in sports. I mean, we saw I know this is unrelated to basketball, but me being a Falcons fan, we watched Kirk Cousins make his return to Minnesota, and they were booing Kirk Cousins, but they had nothing but respect for the guy. It's just one.
Well, I didn't say it was a disrespect thing. It just caught me off guard. I just didn't expect it.
Well, no, I didn't say you were saying that. I was just clearing that up for the guys who are listening and might have not watched the game. It's just a gimmick to try to get into their head. But anyways, Trae Young. Let's talk about Trae Young, the guy that our owner decided to keep around. He had 12 points, a little low scoring, but he had a very productive double-double with 15 assists paired up with that. And the Atlanta Hawks did get the 124-112 win to extend that winning streak to 4. And I know we praise this guy all the time. DeAndre Hunter had 22 off the bench. But why am I bringing his name up again? Because that same day just so happened to be his birthday. So 22 points off the bench for your birthday. Happy belated birthday, DeAndre Hunter. Now, I do want to talk about what did happen for the New Orleans Pelicans because CJ McCollum led the Pelicans' way with 29 points, which he was one shy of his season high, making it 30. Now, DeJounte Murray, greeted by boos during he was cheered, though. They did play like a little small tribute video for him after the end of the first quarter, and he got a nice little standing ovation, so that was cool. But in his first return to Atlanta since being traded, he finished with 7 points and 10 assists, and my goodness, was his shooting from the field abysmal. He was the mid-range weapon for Atlanta in the last 2 years, but he couldn't buy. It was like there was a lid on the rim every time he shot inside the yard. It was ridiculous, and he was getting good separation. It's not like all these shots were contested. He just couldn't get it to land. Now, and then the New Orleans Pelicans fell to 4-18, and that was their 9th loss in a row. And of course, Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram were out of the game. This is just a Pelicans team who is riddled with injury. Like, aside from DeJounte Murray, their entire starting five looks like a G League roster. And I mean that with no disrespect. That's just the truth. Now, the Pelicans, they did bounce back from like a dismantled offensive performance against the Knicks because they played the Hawks in a pretty good game up until the last 6 minutes. And the Hawks, this is really what did it for Atlanta because the Hawks really couldn't pull away until that fourth quarter came around. And it really came from how elevated our shooting efficiency got in that second half because 7 of our players finished in double figures and we shot over 50% from the field overall. Now, Atlanta, aside from Trae Young's 15 assists, had 31 assists in total and finished with 25 or more. And we have now finished with 25 or more assists. In a franchise record, 14 consecutive games. So as the Hawks kind of continue to build this winning streak, we've noticed that the Hawks have gotten more equipped to that off-ball movement, leading to more playmaking opportunities, leading to more points off assists. Now, the thing that really gave the Hawks the edge in that game was, like I mentioned before, the first half, our shooting was kind of cold. But as the third quarter got to roll, Trae Young hit a three-pointer with about 2 minutes left in the third quarter to give the Hawks a 7-point lead, which was the largest lead of the game. And a minute later, DeAndre Hunter sunk another 3 to give us that 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and we just kind of stuck with it all the way through. But then, now that the 4-game win streak was secure, the Hawks had a very interesting matchup in Milwaukee, who was themselves on the midst of a 7-game win streak after a very slow start to the season, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, before I hand it off to you, Joyner, it was interesting to note that Chris Middleton, who has been hurt all year, was expected to come back for that Atlanta Hawks matchup, but got the boot to sit on the bench yet again. So that was a big blow for the Milwaukee, but a big plus for the Hawks. So, Joyner, how did that game go, and how did the Hawks manage to get their 5th win in a row as I eat my 2 Hershey's Kisses?
Currently, Joyner just let us know that he's experiencing some technical difficulties. I think he's going to try to leave the call and come back in.
Okay.
Okay, so he just left. So
I can sit back and watch me eat Hershey's Kisses.
Joyner, he's coming back in right now. I'll kick this out to Joyner. I'll let him talk about this Milwaukee game. And
these kickouts are buzzing, bro.
Why do you keep calling them kickouts?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. They're Hershey's Kisses. They're cookies and cream flavor.
See, he gets a little y'all get a little behind the scenes look of the Talkin ATL Hawks podcast. This is
We just watch Hawks basketball and we eat Hershey's Kisses. That's all we do.
That's life, man. Life is good, man. Life is good. Let's see. I'll see if he can rejoin.
I have no complaints, man. I have no complaints. I mean, if you want to get started on the Hawks and Milwaukee game, Chase, we can just throw it to Joyner once he joins back for some just additional thoughts.
Yeah, I can do that. Of course, the Hawks, God, if I could stop saying, the Hawks on this past Wednesday traveled to Milwaukee. And like I said before, heading into this game, Milwaukee was on a 6-game winning streak. They were considered the hottest team in the Eastern Conference. 7-game win streak, excuse me. They were considered the hottest team in the NBA. Matter of fact, we know that Coach Doc Rivers, him and his Bucks team, they struggled at the start of the year, And it's not a matter of Giannis and Damian Lillard. To me, it's a matter of how I'm sorry, Jordan takes it back. But it was a matter of how weak the Bucks bench is. I mean, Giannis and Dame, they're dominant off the starting lineup. But once the Bucks have to dig in their bench, that's when things get really weak. Because it's not – if you remember, even back to when they won the NBA Finals, one of the biggest reasons they were able to hoist a trophy at the end of the year was because of how deep they were as a team. But now you look this year, I mean, they still have Bobby Portis, so he's not bad. But now they're trying to fit in players you don't really hear, like Liam Robbins has had a much bigger role in Milwaukee, but he's really struggling as well. They've had players like Dylan Wright, who's trying to take a bigger role, but he's not really doing much himself. So it's just a very weird and unfortunate situation for the Bucks that Doc Rivers is trying to handle right now. But we're not here to talk about the Bucks. We're here to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Now, one way the Hawks – this is a game that the Hawks practically dominate from start to finish. We ended up winning the game 119-104, but unlike the Bucks, with the way the Hawks were able to do this was how dominant the bench played, most notably DeAndre Hunter, who posted 6 for 13 from the field, 20 points, 2 assists, 5 rebounds, and then the lethal three-point shooting by Bogdan Bogdanovic, who had 15 points, 3 for 5 from the perimeter, 5 assists to his name as well. And then Jalen Johnson, he had to perform, man. His parents were in the crowd. If you haven't seen Jalen Johnson's dad before, he's like the biggest fanboy when it comes to parents whose sons play in the league. He's always jumping. Jalen Johnson actually had 3 nasty dunks as we welcome back John Joyner to the podcast.
Welcome back, Sir. Sorry, guys. I'm on my phone. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but
hey, no problem, man. At least you're back. We were actually just talking about the Hawks and Bucks game, and I was kind of mentioning how the Hawks bench was the biggest piece that the Hawks were able to dominate from start to finish. But, Jordan, I want to get your thoughts on this. What did you think about the Atlanta Hawks performance on the road against the Milwaukee Bucks, and what was like your key moments in that game that led the Hawks to victory?
Well, I mean, like the Bucks, like they're struggling this season, so I figured we'd have a chance, but like it is Giannis, like he is known as the Greek Freak for a reason. Like I didn't know for sure. Like, I figured we would come out with the win, but I mean, hold on, I'm trying to pull up the stats real quick. But I mean, it was a good win for us. Like looking back at it, like I think we snapped like a 7-game win streak that they were on. So that was kind of cool. Like adding on to our win streak, and then we snapped one of theirs. So that's always cool to do. So it was a good solid win for us. Good solid win.
Now, I mean, look, we've talked about some of the most the games that led to this Hawks win streak and kind of how it built. I mean, it really, to me, asserted, or I guess the biggest bright spot in the entire win streak to me was not only were the Hawks just winning basketball games, but the consistency was there both at home and on the road. Because we talked about at the start of the episode how deathly energetic that Cleveland Cavaliers team is, especially when they're winning games at the high pursuit that they are right now. And then you got Milwaukee, who's always a tough place to play because they're always going to sell out that stadium, especially when you have Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Damian Lillard on the team at once. And then, of course, the Hawks, get tough road win, and they come back at home for the second ever City Edition game where we fell to the Mavericks in the first one, and it was a big. It's always a big anticipated game, no matter who you're a fan of. When LeBron James comes to your house, okay. LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers show paired with Anthony Davis. Now, guys, they were struggling. The Lakers were on a little plummet. They were 12-10 going into that game. They were 5-7 on road games going into what the Hawks have now established after being Milwaukee, the hottest team in basketball. Everybody tuned into this game. And Chase, I want you to start this off. This had to be one of the most incredible games of basketball I have ever watched in my life. It was an overtime thriller. Chase, you kind of break it down, and then afterwards, John, you can give your thoughts, and then I've got a little presentation that I want to give you guys after y'all give y'all's thoughts about the game. And I'm going to go ahead and eat my next Kit Kat, my next Hershey Kiss. If I caught a Kit Kat one more time, I'm leaving.
You go right ahead, man. And like I said at the start of the episode, this is, in my opinion, I don't know if I want to say it's Trae Young's best game as a Hawk. That was a little bit of a stretch maybe, but it was definitely one of his best. It's definitely up there. And, we talked about ever since the Bulls came to town, the Hawks lost to the Bulls in Atlanta. Ever since that game, Trae Young has really – oh, one moment. Hey, I'm sorry. Andrew, you actually start us off. Our parents are home, and apparently we locked the door, so I got to let them in. You go ahead and start it off.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, look, it's tough being a college student, Anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so John.
Especially with the Wi-Fi here, yeah.
Oh, dude, Wi-Fi is always going to be in your way, man. Hey, but that's just life. But we're still going to get through it. We're still going to talk Hawks basketball. Now, John, I'll actually ask you a question while Chase is gone. So, Trae Young, he's kind of been floating around the league as a guy that on paper may seem a little inconsistent. You don't really know what version of him you're going to get. And that's why he's kind of been pushed back in the conversation for what, is he a top 5 or top 3 point guard in the league? But after what we've seen from this year, kind of taking a step down from that Steph Curry mentality and kind of molding himself into what Steve Nash was, going into that Lakers game and putting up 31 points and 20 assists. Yeah, it's not every day you see a guard get a 30-20 game, and he only had 3 turnovers. So does that establish him as one of the best, if not the best, playmaking guard in the NBA?
I think it very well does establish him as one of the best playmaking guards in the NBA, if not the best. I did see they did show like an interesting stat. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was just it was just like a Hawks franchise record or something, or was an NBA record. But they said that I think it was like the first Hawks point guard in Hawks history to drop 31-20 and 5 3-pointers or something like that. I think that's what it was. I can't remember exactly what it was. But
it was amazing. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you're going up against you're going up against one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time, in LeBron James, who dropped a triple double, had 39 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds.
Yep.
Went insane vintage LeBron block on I think it was Hunter.
That was the 2016 finals LeBron James block. That was freaking ridiculous.
I was like, it's LeBron James. I'm not surprised that he did that. And something else too, another rookie that's been impressing so far is Dalton Connect.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that guy's good.
I remember at the draft. The draft when all 3 of us were there. I kept telling them, how is this dude falling? This dude fell to 17 have the 17 think about. I might Connect going 9 to the Grizzlies.
Yeah, no, that boy was dropping like flies, man. It was crazy, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was maybe he had a poor performance at the combine, but whatever it was that made his stock drop. I mean, the Lakers got a steal, you could say, and Cole Kmet, he's a lethal shooter, man.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, yeah, like if we didn't have
Yeah,
like the number one
I'll
pick in
talk
the
about
draft, and we didn't. I'm sorry, what? What?
Oh, you got it, Jordan. You got it. You got it.
I mean, it was. I mean, it was. I mean, it was like. I mean, it was like I'm saying, like if we didn't have the number one draft pick and if he wasn't balling like he's been balling, my pick would go to Connect, the rookie of the year. Like,
okay. Wow, okay. I'm leaning more towards Jared McCain from the 76ers right now, but hey, there's so many good rookie talent in this year's draft class, which was completely unexpected. Because heading into the draft, this was viewed as one of the weakest we've seen in the last decade, but it's turned out to be anything but the opposite. But Chase, now that you're back, you can go on and finish your thoughts before you swing it over to me, and I'll give you my little presentation. You there, Chase?
So this was a very back and forth game. Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Well, that was unexpected.
I guess we're all having Wi-Fi problems, I guess. But something else I want to touch on. Like after the game, like during Trae Young's like post game interview, like he was saying that like his teammates have been wanting him to shoot more, which like I agree. Like the past couple games, like he's been in a slump. That's no that's no lie. Like Trae Young has been in a slump the past couple games, especially he's shooting the ball.
Yeah.
I think now like Trae's found his rhythm. I think he's like, and now that he's good, and just like him saying that the guys still have confidence in him, like even though he's been shooting terrible, like you love to see that, like especially like since he's our guy, since he's our leader, like I'm glad that the guys like enjoy like being around him and like enjoy like him being our number one like threat. So that's something that I did enjoy like hearing the guys say about him. So.
Well, yeah, and that just kind of goes to show the kind of culture that Quinn Snyder has really built around this team in Atlanta. It's to always just lift each other up, even if that means your leader who's been in a shooting slump, just kind of encourage him to, mold back into what really made him the great guard that he is, aside from his great playmaking abilities. But I do want to kind of get into a little, in case y'all didn't catch the end of this Hawks and Lakers game, that just turned out to be a fantastic branded game of basketball. So Trae Young, in case you haven't seen the highlight all over social media, hit a three-pointer with 7.4 seconds left in overtime as the Atlanta Hawks held on to win their sixth straight game, beating the slumping Los Angeles Lakers 134-132 on Friday night. Now, Trae Young, like we mentioned before, scored 31 points to offset a huge night by the Lakers' big two, LeBron James, who scored 39, and Anthony Davis, who scored 38. But it wasn't easy to prevent Los Angeles from taking its third straight loss and seventh defeat in 9 games. So James, after Trae Young's three with 7 seconds left, had a chance to win it for the Lakers, but his long three-pointer clanked off the rim. And with this was, to me, one of the most pivotal moments in the game. While the score was tied at 119, the Hawks had the final possession of regulation, and Young's three-pointer was blocked by Max Christie, and James collided with Davis going for the loose ball, which sent LeBron James, who is 39 years old, it was evident that he got up and he was holding his knee, and it appeared that he had some kind of knee pain. And the reason why I think that was a pivotal moment is because it was. I don't think pivotal is the right word. It was a moment that really was a thorn in my side, because with the final possession in regulation, with the game tied at 119, the Hawks completely went away to what made that offense run like a well-oiled machine for the last 4 quarters. And instead of, Trae Young getting the ball at the top of the half court and setting a screen or trying to make some kind of attempt to drive him to the paint and have either a lob option or a kickout option, Trae Young just maintained possession at the top of the timeline, let the clock wind down, and try to take some stupid Superman step back three that got blocked by Max Christie. And it was very agonizing to see that happen because it felt like the Hawks could have ended it there. But of course, we rebounded in overtime. Now, like I said before, LeBron James and company, they could at least take a solace from pointing up a competitive effort because they've lost their last 2 games going to that matchup, but combined for a total of 70 points. And that, to me, that was a spectacular showing by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Now, I think the key moment in overtime to me was when Dyson Daniels came up with those 2 huge defensive plays for the Hawks in that final minute of overtime. Now, he had a steal that didn't result in points because James made a huge block and it went off of Dyson Daniels' fingertips. But Daniels then tied up Davis for a jump ball, and this was mind-blowing to me. So you got Anthony Davis and Dyson Daniels in a jump ball opportunity in a pivotal moment with about a minute left in overtime. Now, looking at it, you'd be crazy if you picked Dyson Daniels to win that. I mean, Anthony Davis has the height advantage, the vertical, everything went Davis's way in that tip-off. And as predicted, Davis won the tip. But LeBron James knocked the ball out of bounds, battling for it with DeAndre Hunter, who made an incredible effort to try to get that ball for the Hawks, which, of course, set up Young's winning shots. And I also want to compliment, aside from DeAndre Hunter's 26 points, Bogdan Bogdanovic had a very impressive 20 points. And a thing that really impressed me about Bogey was because though he struggled to shoot from the wings, he continued to let the ball fly because he had the confidence instilled in himself, knowing the consistent shooter that he could be. And the Hawks really need him to show up at the start of that fourth quarter, and he had 2 threes within the first 5 minutes of that fourth quarter that really proved to be big for the Hawks. And then another key factor, the Hawks bench outscored the Lakers bench 65-17, which is outrageously good for the Hawks. First of all, shame on you, Lakers, for only getting 17 points worth of production out of your bench. But the Atlanta Hawks getting 65 off the bench is ridiculous. But Chase, welcome back to the stream. Before I go on my little presentation rant, do you have any thoughts you want to throw in about this Hawks and Lakers game since Wi-Fi kind of cut you out?
No, I think y'all pretty much said it all, so I'll let you go to your presentation.
Okay, well, I'm going to, as always, go back to my share screen. So if you don't mind, Chase, just giving me the access that I so rightfully deserve.
All right, it is very laggy for me, so I can hardly click on anything. Just a quick heads up.
Yeah, Chase uses a new computer, and so do I, apparently.
I do. I absolutely need a new computer.
Just let me know when you have the thing pulled up. If you can't. Oh, it's there, right?
There you go.
I do. I clicked on it 15 seconds ago. It's just nothing's happening.
Well, I see it on my. I see that it's pulled up.
Yeah.
There
Yes, there.
You can see it, Chase?
Hardly.
Should we not give it a try? What do you think?
But you can go ahead as long as everybody else sees it. You're good. I just can't see it.
You cut out for me. Hey Chase, you there? You're kind of cutting out.
I think you can go ahead and do it. I just can't see it.
Yeah, but because the recording's on your screen, does that mean do you think it's a bad idea?
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Man, I don't want to do something that isn't going to turn out to be good in terms of quality. Oh, you see it playing, right?
I see it. Yeah, I can see
No.
it.
Dude,
I think it's I think it's a problem I end, but I can't see it.
yeah, but because you're the one that's doing the recording, isn't it gonna, in terms of quality, be what you're seeing on your screen?
I know what you're saying. I have no idea. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, well we'll skip out on this then. I mean, if you guys want to watch the highlights, of course, y'all can go see yourself. I was gonna kind of take a deep dive into what actually happened in that overtime, but going forward, Chase, well, we'll talk about it off camera. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so it's yeah. If y'all guys want to see what I just described earlier, yeah, I mean, obviously the highlights are all across the internet, so go see that for yourself. It was a really good watch. But I guess. I mean, we can either take a dive into the Nuggets game. I wasn't able to watch a game, unfortunately, because I was at an event. But we could either do that, or we could end the episode off by doing a little better preview of the Hawks and Knicks game if y'all guys want.
It's up to y'all.
Chase, are you hearing us? There he goes. Yeah, I figured he wasn't really hearing us. Well, I guess we could talk about, let's see. So the Hawks, of course, did fall 141 to 111 to the Nuggets. I guess I'll go ahead and read some box score stats. So Michael Porter Jr. in 36 minutes, he posted up 26 points with 7 rebounds. So it seemed like he was very effective inside the paint. Now, a big stat that I did see earlier, but I forgot to mention, was Nikola Jokic, the 3-time MVP, had 48 points and 14 rebounds, and he had 8 assists. So he almost had a 50-point triple-double, which is wild. And I did see a highlight where Nikola Jokic did nail a half-court shot at the buzzer to give the Nuggets a 20-point lead going to the half. So that that was kind of the big punch of the gut, I imagine, for the Hawks, because you had a first half where the Nuggets pulling up 70 plus. You couldn't find any answers defensively, and then Nikola Jokic just comes out and nails a half court shot like that. That had to be very, very deflating. But on the Hawks side of things, Trae Young really struggled shooting the ball again. He had 15 points and 10 assists. We had a lot of Hawks players in double figures, like DeAndre Hunter had 20 off the bench again. Onyeka had 14. Dyson Daniels had a solid 18. But then you had lackluster performances. Larry Nance had 16 off the bench, which we haven't seen a lot of production from him as of late, so that's really good to see. Zachary Richardson really struggled today. Clint Capella struggled offensively, did have 10 boards. So it just kind of seemed like it was one of those – it really seemed like last year's version of the Hawks, just – not a lot of defense and not a lot of offense put into the same game, because there's, even in a high-scoring day of age in basketball that we all live in, allowing a team to score almost 150 is really outrageous and really disappointing. But can you really be mad at the team? Because again, that was our chance to get our 7th win in a row. We're still a game above 500, so I think it's kind of one of those games that you have to kind of take as a learning curve, regroup, and then go into Madison Square Garden and get a big win.
I mean, yeah, I would not have wanted this win streak to last super long, because obviously we know how long win streak affects us. Going back to the 2015 and 2016 Atlanta Hawks, no, it was 2015 when we had that insane almost 1.5 month run of not losing, and then we got swept in the finals. I wouldn't have wanted anything like that. I would have rather have been the human and not going on some insane run like that. So I'm glad that we finally got humbled by a really good Denver Nuggets team. So I mean, I mean, yeah, like what you were saying, we should need to regroup and focus all of our attention on the Knicks this Wednesday, because that's something we need to win if you want to go into Vegas and win this cup. So
Yeah, and of course, as we've mentioned before, we know what Trae Young likes to do when it comes to Madison Square Garden, and he has a chance to be breaking hearts again. You got the first stage of the knockout round for the Eastern Conference. You got the Hawks and the Knicks Wednesday night. It's going to be nationally televised on ESPN. So the Knicks, they went 4-0 in their NBA Cup group play, absolutely sweeping the board. Atlanta Hawks went 3-1. So almost doing that. The only loss we had in the group stage was that loss on the road to Chicago. So the Hawks, their ambitions really lit up when they beat Boston, outscoring the home Celtics 63-51 in that second half. And then, of course, they clinched their group with that other impressive victory against Cleveland. The Knicks saved its best for last in that finale against Orlando, handling the otherwise really soft Group A of the Eastern side that went 9-3. So I'm not going to say the Knicks had an easy path to the knockout stage, but they had an easy pass to the knockout stage. Now, the big question to me is whether or not the Hawks will be able to hold down the Knicks offense to figure out a way to outscore them. Because New York has the NBA's top-ranked attack. They have outscored opponents at home by 17.2 points per game on average, which explains their 8-2 home record. They did get blown out in the Cup quarterfinals last year, which allowed them to miss that Vegas trip, but that came at the hands in Milwaukee. They're in their own home court this time. Now, Atlanta, they have more quality wings than most of the teams in the NBA, led by Jalen Johnson and early most improved candidate Dyson Daniels. And Trae Young, as we mentioned over and over again in this episode, has really put them to use. And though his shooting and scoring are down, his assists are at a league high, averaging 12 assists a game. Still, the Knicks have, like you mentioned before, John, that Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns kind of 1-2 punch, and 4 more guys that average double figures. So the Hawks did beat them in Atlanta back in November 6th, but they're a deficit of nearly 3 points per game on the road. So then this is a Knicks team that does very well in close games. So we'll see how the Hawks fare in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And going on to like looking at the bracket. On the other side of the bracket is the Bucks and the Magic. They play on Tuesday. So if we beat the Knicks, we play either the Bucks or the Magic in the Eastern semifinals. On December 14th. And we'll play either the Thunder, Mavericks, Rockets, or Warriors in the championship. So, it should be a fun matchup for whoever we play. I honestly don't think I want to play the Warriors though, especially after we got clapped. What was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
I was literally just gonna say the same thing. Like I feel like this new resurgence Hawks team could use that rematch against the Warriors, but at the same time, I'd rather not deal with Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So I would really like to see the Rockets come out top in that matchup. But before we wrap this thing up, is there any final remarks you want to make, John? I think Chase is having Wi-Fi issues, so I don't think he's going to be able to join us for the rest of this episode. So is there any closing remarks you'd like to make, John, before we wrap this thing up?
No, not really. The Wi-Fi sucks. Internet sucks sometimes.
Yeah. Before the next episode, we'll see if there's a way we can get this Wi-Fi thing figured out, just so we don't have these issues again. But thank you guys for bearing with us. And look, hopefully by this time next week, we'll be previewing the Hawks' first game in Las Vegas for the NBA Cup quarterfinals or semifinals. Very, very excited to see how the Hawks do this week. But again, this has been Talking Atlanta Hawks. We boast about the Hawks' big win streak. The win streak did just come to an end, but that doesn't mean the Hawks still aren't soaring, baby. We just took a little hit. Everyone's going to take a little hit every now and then. We're going to regroup, get back on our feet, get that big win in Madison Square Garden, and things will be just fine. But as for me, Chase, who unfortunately we lost at the end of the show, and John, thank you so much for joining, and we will see you guys on episode 7, baby. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.